Hello and welcome to Threefold Herbal Healing. I'm herbalist Leo Sade. I help people who feel sick and tired of being sick and tired, or people that are struggling with chronic condition, grow health from the roots up. Today, I'm speaking about our inner clocks, or the endocrine system, and how it is working with the cosmic powers of the sun, the moon, the planets, the earth, how it keeps us in tune. When I started working at holistic health and reading holistic health practitioner articles, I heard again and again and again about nature connectedness. I heard about it as my birthright. I heard how important it is for my well-being. And I was always puzzled by it because I didn't fully understand the concept. And how do you practically um, connect to nature? So, is walking in the woods enough of connecting to nature? Is hugging a tree enough connected to nature? It wasn't clear to me. And the other thing that wasn't clear to me is what's our place in nature? And that was solved for me when I started to think about myself not as a separate being connection from nature, but as part of nature. So when you talk about connecting to nature, a lot of time you think about one being as yourself and another being as nature, and you connect. But this is not how I think about human being and about nature. I think about human being as nature as one being. Um, and I love it when I can find the practical, physical ways to explore it and to share it with people. So that's what I'm talking about today. Um, the cycle of the sun, the moon, and the pull of the earth affect every single function in your body, from your sleep, metabolism, your energy level, your stress, and your mood are all affected by the cosmos. How fascinating it, how mysterious, how intriguing. One thing that I was always fascinated with was the work of the alchemist, because the alchemists in their work combine together religion, science. At the time, herbalism was the top science, and art. They were poets. They knew how to draw, to make, um, draw plants. They did an amazing job. And one of the sentences that is associated with alchemy is as above, so below, as within, so without. And this sentence always intrigued me, but at the same time, I was stuck by it like it's a riddle. So how does it work in real practical life? Until I learned about the endocrine system and how it connects us to the cosmos. So let's talk about the endocrine system and hormones and what are they and how they connect us to the cosmos. Hormones are chemical messengers. They are like snail mails. They convey information to cells that influence your mood, your behavior, your emotion, your brain function, like focus and memory, your immune system, your reproductive system, the cycle of the months, and your metabolic function or your energy levels. All the cells in their body are kind of swimming or bathing in a broth of hormones that constantly changes in order to adapt to factors such as light and darkness, appetite and satiation, stress level, blood sugar, and your moon cycle. For hormones to be effective in conveying their messages, they need to connect to cells. In order to do that, cells need to be receptive to the message. Cells need to be open-minded and be receptive to what hormones have to give them. If for some reasons cells are not receptive, the hormones are turned out and they can't convey the message. So let me give you an example. One very, very common example, unfortunately, is insulin. Insulin is a key that opens cells for glucose. Glucose is fuel for cells. It's what burn in the cells in order to produce energy. I like to think about the way we produce energy like the steam engines of trains hundreds of years ago by now. You fed them logs of woods, the wood burned, the steam created energy, and that's what moved the train. So we have glucose coming into the cell, and it acts as the log and it's burned in the cells and produce energy. That's oversimplification, but that's what's happening. And that energy allows the cells to function, to do what it needs to do. But in order for glucose to go into the cell, it needs to open the door. And what opens the door is insulin. But what happens if you have too much glucose in the blood? So just imagine a train with, when you feed too much wood into the engine, the fire is heating and eating and eating and growing and growing and growing until at one stage the engine explodes. That's what might happen in cells if they don't moderate the entrance of glucose and there is too much glucose coming to the cell, too much energy production. Eventually the cell will burn. So when cells feel like they have a lot of glucose coming in, what they do is they stop being receptive to insulin. So the door is locked and glucose cannot go in. When glucose cannot go in, eventually the cell will use all the glucose in the cell and the cell will starve, but the door is locked, so glucose can come in. But on the other hand, in the blood, glucose level go up. And glucose level in the blood is not good. The pancreas is the organ that produces insulin. The hormone insulin is produced in the pancreas. And the pancreas senses the increase in glucose in the blood. So the pancreas will produce more and more insulin. Eventually, the pancreas will be damaged because there is too much insulin and too much work producing it, so pancreas cells will kind of wear off. So you will have a lot of blood sugar, but cells that are insulin resistant, and a pancreas that is tired, which is what we mean when we say type 2 diabetes. So you want to keep, the bottom line is really, you want to keep your cell receptive to the hormones. So let's talk a little bit about that too. Hormone production is managed by the endocrine headquarters. And I always, I have this image of Star Trek. Do you remember Star Trek? With Captain Picard standing on the bridge and all those maps and the big window of the entire cosmos. That's how I imagine the hypothalamus, because the hypothalamus gets information from all the body, but also from everything in the environment, and comes up with a plan. And that plans look like hormones that are released by the hypothalamus, reach the pituitary gland, and stimulate hormone production all over the body. So it could be in the adrenal gland, in the thyroid, in the pancreas, in the ovaries, and all those hormones are dependent on feedback loops. So when some hormones goes up, the hypothalamus will stop producing them. But if they go down, it will up the production of those hormones, which is fascinating. The hypothalamus is sensitive to cues from cosmic forces such as the sun and the moon, which is, I think, fascinating. It functions like an inner clock that produces hormone not just by the need of the system, like those feedback loops, but also it initiates biological processes at specific times of the day, of the months, and of the seasons. The hypothalamus keeps our inner clocks in tune with the cosmic clocks. You can say more connected to nature to that. Now, many hormones are made from cholesterols, and for many, many years, cholesterol was blamed for heart disease, and doctors advised their patients to follow low-fat diet. Unfortunately, we now know that low-fat diet can lead to a deficiency in hormones that use cholesterol as their building block. So we are talking about hormones like cortisol, estrogen, all the sex hormones, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone are all made with um, cholesterol. Now, each hormone is essential on its own. You can't be without cortisol, or you can't be without estrogen. But when they are in the right proportion, magic can happen because they work together. If you are struggling with an imbalance in any of the hormones, you need to create a care plan that addresses all the endocrine system, because all of it is made out of seesaws of up and down, and like wheels, like clocks that are working together. So if you have estrogen dominant, you need to check your cortisol and your progesterone. It just is fascinating thing how they all work together. So in the next couple of weeks, I am going to help you see how all those hormones relate to each other and how they relate to the cosmos. We will talk about different cycles that tick like clocks in the body and determine the pace of all the vital function in your body. So the next week, I'm going to talk about the sun cycle. It follows the movement of the sun over the sky from sunrise to sunset, and different wavelengths of sun rays meet the eye, and from the eye, the information go to the hypothalamus and stimulate different physiological forces, which is fascinating. What's the difference between red light and blue light, and why it's so important to know about it? Then 2 weeks from today, we are going to talk about metabolic cycles. Those involved processes that are building tissue, growth hormones, metabolic rate, insulin resistance, glucose metabolism. All those things are influenced by the cosmic forces, by your hormones, by the time of the day. So one hint is, when should you eat your meals is important for losing weight, for producing more energy, for fatigue, because the time you produce your hormones make a lot of difference to your physiological functions. And then the last week, we will go into the moon cycle, the reproductive cycle, and how it can influence fertility and even used to prevent pregnancy. So let's talk a bit about the cycles and how they connect us to the heaven. Thank you for watching. I hope you're intrigued and at home by this topic like me. If you have a question or a comment, I would love to hear from you. See you next week. Bye.